Hi, guys. Welcome back to my Broken Beauty channel. Today, we are picking up where I left off. This is day two of a seven-part series, obstacles that basically stop us from making drastic changes. And I welcome you all back today. I did the first one. I did in a relaxed setting, which I really love, and I'm probably going to do some more of those. I know when I left the last time, I wasn't quite sure as to whether I was going to do another live or if I was just going to record it and then post it. I decided we're going to go ahead and get another live done. So let's get to it. Where we stopped on part one was understanding discomfort. That discomfort is an obstacle that stops a lot of us from making a big drastic change. And there were the main reason why is because when we begin to experience discomfort, it's not a physical pain that we're feeling. It is what I call a mental pain. And what comes with that mental pain are two things. So we discussed the other day the first part of that mental pain, which is uncertainty. And I basically let you guys know that the reason why discomfort becomes so painful for a lot of us is because we're uncertain of what's on the other side. And that brings pain to us. And because we don't know what's on the other side, we choose to stay in our comfort zone. Um, so, with that being said, I mean, the comfort zone, or actually staying in that place, there's a label for that. Y'all excuse me while I get my thoughts together. There is a label for that, which is known, which, okay, let me calm down. I have no clue why I'm trying to rush this. Okay. So when we speak about making that change and we get discomfort, the analogy I used was the analogy of you get called into a room or you get invited to a dinner party. Once you're at that dinner party, you are told that you are in a room with 100%, the top 100% of top performers. And I think I said that wrong, but you know what I mean. So 100% of the top performers are in that room. The amazing thing is you're in that room too, which makes you one of the top 100, right? Now you get invited to this party, and then the higher ups come to everybody in the room and they give them the opportunity to level up. Now, only 30% of the people in that room are going to grow wings and fly to the next plane. And that is because the other 70% of people are have created a deep solace with situational bias. The situational bias is the cognition part of our brain where we much rather stay in our comfort zone versus going higher and going to the next level where we know we're going to be blessed. And that is because a lot of times the 70% of people that decide to stay in that situational bias, they relate more pain to making the change of going to the other side versus staying in their comfort zone. Even though they may not like being in that comfort zone, they are perfectly fine with staying where they're at. So, part one of this series was just understanding uncertainty, understanding discomfort. Part two, we are going to be going over the second thing that comes with discomfort, which is grief. And when we look at grief, we look at grief as being, what do you call it? It's not a physical death. A lot of people, when we say grief, you think it's death. It's not a physical death, more so than what we would call a mental. So keep in mind, this is discomfort. It's a mental pain. So it's basically, it's all up here. It's a mental death. That's all up here. And the difference between the two would be, when we think of a physical death, we all know about the 5 stages of grief, right? You got the regret, the anger, so on and so forth. This type of grief is not that type of grief. This type of grief is more of a, what is known as an anticipatory grief. Okay, it's called anticipatory grief, actually. So, what we know, let me back up. When it comes to grief, what we know about grief, whether it be a physical death or just moving across town or moving out of state, right? Because there's different forms of grief. So a lot of people grieve when they move. That's the type of grief I'm talking about. When you move, it's that anticipatory grief. And what we know when we think about grief, we know two things. We know you are either in something is either in the process of ending, or something has ended. So we always connect grief to a final ending, right? Now, when we look at the anticipatory grief, anticipatory, the an, which is actually made up or derived from the word anticipate, comes from anticipating. In the medical thought process, it is believed, which it really is, that our body, a lot of times we fail. How do I say this? A lot of times, people who are stuck in the situational bias is because they do have that anticipatory grief. And what that means is they are basically living in the future and blocking their present, right? They're placing limits on their present because they're living in the future based off of what happened in their past. So, what does that mean? You picture, an example would be, I used to be afraid of speaking, presentational speaking. And it was because growing up, I was always told, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not, or not necessarily that you're not smart, but really you don't know what you're talking about, and stop talking. So what that did was, it caused me to go straight to my head, right? Went straight to my head. And I started to really believe when I was younger that even though I knew the answer, I really told myself, you don't know the answer. That's not the answer. Now, of course, this wasn't my parents. This were younger kids that were my age. We were grade school and all that. But it tends to work on the psyche. So what ended up happening is, every time I had to get up and give a report in class or do some type of play, I would immediately revert back to, you don't know what you're talking about. And what that tended to do is cause me to, when it was time for me to actually perform, I would forget everything. Because what comes with anticipatory grief is anxiety. So I would get so much anxiety. I was overloading my brain with, is it cortisol? I think it's cortisol. I was overloading my brain with all that cortisol, and my mind just shut down. So it was time for me to actually get up and present what I needed to present. I couldn't do it because I was thinking about something in the past, allowing the past to come forward, causing me so much anxiety that I just completely forgot everything. Right. And over, before I literally had to go up and do the presentation, I'm just thinking in my head, I can't do this. I am going to ruin this. I am going to get up here and forget everything that I said. And everything, every negative thought that I had took place. So that is anticipatory grief, when we basically anticipate the future based off of our past, right? And you got to realize, what a lot of people don't realize is that what comes with anxiety. Now, I also speak about this. I also spoke about this the other day in part one, where I basically talked about how the brain operates and how the brain's main job is to keep us safe. So anything outside of the norm of what we're normally doing, the brain is going to throw up alert signs and send out alert signals. So what that looks like is, anytime the brain freaks out and goes in shock, there's three things that happen within our body that I don't believe a lot of people realize. And those three things are, even though they're all happening simultaneously, it's like, am I safe? How much time do I have? And how can I get out of this, right? So it's, where can I go if I'm not safe? Do I have time to run and hide somewhere? So the brain is literally going through pretty much, it's doing a major shutdown. So when we bring anxiety in, this is what's happening. And of course, because we have already mentally talked ourselves down from performing, even though we may be the best performer or presenter in the world, mentally, because we are looking at something that happened in the past and we're now basing it on our present and the future, because we're saying, well, I can't do this. I'm going to get up here and I am going to completely crash at presenting or at speaking or at whatever it is you're being asked to do, which is why 70% of our high performers much rather stay in our comfort zone. And I know the other night I had started talking to you guys about the chart, the growth zone. And what that is it's a chart that's made up of 4 systems. And it's a chart that basically tells you how we go through the ebbs and flows in life and in learning, really. And in the middle of the chart is the comfort zone. That's our safe area. That's where we feel safe, right? So when you look at the people, the 70% of people who refuse to grow wings and fly to the next plane, it's because they are in their comfort zone. You just told them they're at the top 100% of their game. They're okay with where they're at, even though they're really not. They may want the bigger raise, they may want more money, but the problem is they're connecting too much pain to learning the new information. They're connecting more pain to, I'm now going over here, I'm going to go with people that are more educated than me, and I now have to catch up. They're connecting more pain to all the negative thoughts that are going on in their head than they are to the comfort and staying where they're at and eventually falling behind, because that's what happens when you stay in one spot. Yes, you may be at the top of your game in that area, but at some point you are going to come to the realization that you're no longer at the top of your game. So when you look at the growth zone, the middle circle is your comfort zone, and it's also the smallest circle. The next circle is what is known as the fear zone. And this is what sits in between the 70% of people, the fear, right? It's that fear that we have within ourselves of actually getting our wings, I guess you can say. And you guys give me a minute. Okay. Yeah, growing our wings and actually seeing if, or not even seeing, challenging ourselves, because we know, one, it's a death. There's change coming. If I got to grow my wings and fly, that means I can't be here. I got to say goodbye to this and fly away to that. That right there to me looks more painful than me sitting right here. And of course it does, because it's something you've never done before. It's something that you're basically walking in unknown territory, and that's okay. Anticipatory grief shows us negative images instead of positive ones, right? Um, and a lot of times, anticipatory grief, if the anxiety gets too high, it can literally make you sick. So, how do we shift? How do we shift our mind out of anticipating what's to come and just, okay, let's be in the present? Well, the first thing we need to do is, if we're going to be anticipating anything, we need to be able to see ourselves presenting or see ourselves performing at an excellent level. We need to begin, like I said in part one, start with your small toe, which means fill out the application, take the interview, and you just start where you are at. Now, if you're working for, let's say, one of the corporate places like a call center, or I know a lot of call centers have trainings. So I know when I was working in the call center, our training was 6 months. I think it was 3. It was 3 months in actual classroom training, and then 3 months with on the floor training. And then they threw us out into the onto the floor with all the high performing reps. I don't know if they do that like that now, but I know within that training period, it helps me get my feet in the door. And again, there's always going to be people that move at different paces. Because I can tell you just from experience, working in the call center that I worked in, um, they said the normal turnaround time for people to really realize that they got something is 7 months, which is basically a habit formation, right? Because it's 21 days for a habit to form. And then you figure 6 to 7 months for you to really know you got that habit. Well, and then, in my call center years, we had what we called leads, and they were the trainers that actually helped us go through the training and learn all the systems. We had over like 50 something systems we had to learn. So for me, that was overwhelming. I was like, who's going to learn 50? How are we going to know what system to go to? And it was very comforting to know that I wasn't the only one that had that idea, because there were at least 3 other people that were like, well, wait a minute, 50, over 50 systems. Are we going to know all these systems before we get out the class? And, the trainers were like, you will know of the systems. You may not know exactly how they work, because there will really only be maybe 12, 15 systems that you alternate in between using often. The other ones are companions to those systems or something like that. But anyway, learning 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 those systems. Two of the trainers said it took them about 30 days to learn the systems. The one main trainer that me and her got along, I loved her because she was very real. She was very honest. And she's just straight up, she said, it's going to be different for everybody, because it took me 7 to almost 10 months to learn. And she was like, it's really going to be one of those things where one day you're just going to look up and be like, I actually know what I'm doing, right? So, and that's legitimately what happened to me. We were in our 6 month, and I was just running all these systems, and I got off a call. I think I was going to break. I hit the little thing so I could go to break, and I was looking at the screen. I had up, I want to say 15 different apps. And that's when it hit me. Girl, you done navigated this system. What? So even though instead of anticipating, I was anticipating negativity, but what helped was the fact that I did have that training behind me. And I stuck my little baby toe in there, and then I stuck all the toes and the feet and all that in there. And I eventually learned how to run all these systems. So the way to get past the anticipatory grief is to see yourself doing the thing that it is you want to do. See yourself fixing the car. See yourself standing on stage and giving the best speech ever. Because let me tell you, right now, I see myself talking to you guys. Okay. I see myself on here going live. Now, if y'all are talking back to me, Charge it to my head, not my heart. I have not learned how to run these chat systems yet. And then I left my phone over on the other table. But I did want to come on here because if I would have left before getting on here, I probably would have never came back and did part 2 today because I got to leave once I get off of here and go pick up my son. But that's neither here nor there. Getting back to what we were talking about. Let me see. Y'all bear with me while I get my notes together. Anticipatory grief. That's how we basically get over the anticipatory grief. Is, again, we got to ease ourselves into it. You want to pretty much work your mind into it. See yourself doing it. See yourself becoming that person of high value or high aspiration, that high keynote speaker or whatever it may be, that high performing master coach, whatever it may be, right? Because what happens is there's that term, neurons that wire together, fire together. And basically what that means is, like I said, the brain is used to working like an automated system. So it's doing the same thing. And that's because the neurons are all firing together because they're like, we know what to do. So let us just do it. So whenever you start trying to do something new, it alerts you, right? But if you take it slowly, it's not overwhelming the brain system. So what happens is it's like, okay, we're learning something new. We're learning something new. And the brain will eventually begin to adapt and pick up this new skill that you have begun to learn. And now all of our neurons are working in one direction for whatever the purpose is we're trying to complete. There's something. Oh, the next part of that chart. So once we conquer the fear, right, then we enter into the learning phase, which is the learning. Now the circle is now getting bigger because we are entering into the learning phase of we have opened up our mind. Right, that's right. I'm trying to word this right, y'all. Y'all forgive me. We have opened up our mind to go into the learning phase, right? Now, I do have, let me give this to you. And let me give this to you. Let me pull this up here. Give me a minute because I do have a photo of what this graph looks like. And I just wanted to show y'all. So in the learning zone here, there it goes. Okay. Hopefully y'all can see that. I can't tell because it's not telling me anything. But yeah, hopefully you guys are seeing, like right here, we have our comfort zone, which that's our area of comfort. And then we move into the fear zone. So when we are in that situational bias, we are in between these two, right? Once we calm our systems down, we begin to move into the learning zone where we open ourselves up to start receiving information little by little, right? And then we eventually get to the growth zone because once you have learned what you need to learn to navigate whatever it is you need to navigate, you've now expanded. And you can rock that thing the way it needs to be rocked, or run with the ball in the direction that you need to run with the ball. So this is what the growth chart looks like when we look at the flows, the ebbs and flows of how our body and our mind is flowing through changes, making changes. We don't want to leave our comfort zone. Even though we know that there's a blessing on the other side, we don't want to lose our comfort zone. But we also got to look at the fact that from a biblical perspective, we are holding on to things so tight. Just so tight. And God is saying, if you just let this go, I got more for you on the other side. There is, I don't know if y'all have seen that, there's a photo where it shows Jesus and the little girl, and she has a real tiny teddy bear, and she's just holding it. And God is trying to take the teddy bear, and the little girl is looking at him like, absolutely not. And so they show him and her, and Jesus is standing like this. Behind him is a huge teddy bear. And basically, it's saying, if you give me this, I'm going to give you this. Right? So we have to pretty much trust our instincts, trust that everything that we have learned up until this point is more than enough. And I did, was it a reel? I don't know if it was a reel. It was a post that I put up a few weeks ago. And I basically talked about something to this particular, speaking to this particular situation where it wasn't the same thing, but basically it was about being elevated into a room and you are around a lot of people that feel like you don't belong there, or they feel like, or you yourself just feel like, I don't know if I'm smart enough to be in this room. I don't think I really belong here. And my response to that was, stay in the room, right? You need to stay in the room, but you also need to understand the same thing that got you in the room is not going to keep you in the room. So you got to keep expanding and learning. So not only can you become a top number one percenter in that room, but you expand and you're able to elevate. So that's really what this is about, right? Trying to help you get out of that discomfort state and understand why we get stuck in these states, because a lot of us get stuck because we feel uncomfortable because of one reason or another. Now, there are a lot of reasons or a lot of thoughts, negative thoughts, that go through our head as to why we can't move forward when it comes to discomfort, right? Discomfort brings with it a lot of thoughts. One of them being, as we discussed, the fear of unknown. Other one, coming out of our comfort zone, right? Being put in a place where you don't know anyone or have any friends. You have to figure it out. You may have to figure some things out on your own. A lot of people are not used to that. Then we have the stubbornness. Some of us are stubborn. Some of us are stubborn. And a lot of times What makes us stubborn? The idea that I don't need to change. You're right. I am perfectly fine where I'm at. The 70 percenters. We're fine where we're at. There's no change that needs to be needed. Change for what? Remember that song? What was his name? Shut down for what? Is that how that song went? It was a Little John song. I forgot. I think it said he said shut down for what? That used to be one of the songs though. But anyway, stubborn people also they tend to deny a problem exists. So if you're denying that there's an issue or that yeah, no, that I'm not gonna make that much money when I get over there, it's probably gonna be the same amount here. You got a bit of stubbornness in you, right? Then another negative thought process is not knowing how to go about making this change. And that is thinking, I'm going to have to do it the opposite way, right? If I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it. Now, I will say I am a perfectionist. So every once in a while, with certain things though, not everything, every once in a while I will get off and get on my perfectionist spiel. Is that how that goes? What is some other ones? Yeah. Oh, fear of failure. So what if I fail when I go on stage? What if I fail when I go out here to do this dance? Fear of failure. If you succeed at this speaking thing, I'm going to gain more responsibility, right? A lot of times that's people's fear of failure or fear of success. Fear of success is I'm going to get more responsibility if I actually succeed at this. And then that question becomes, do you really want it? Right? At those points, that's when you really got to decide, okay, because with great leadership, as in anything, you are going to get more responsibility. And some people just can't handle it. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you truly know that something is for you, and the only reason you are refusing to do it is because you don't want to face the fact that you may have to learn some new systems or you're going to have to learn something new, then I recommend you get out of that that thought process. Level up and become the best version of yourself that you can become, right? And then I have the sixth thing that goes through our mind when it comes to this discomfort is not wanting to be the only one who changes. Um, and that's pretty much an external focus, fear of being alone, and the only one who experiences the new change. A lot of people, I mean, you see that a lot when you're younger, like when you're in the sometimes, well, elementary through middle school, where you have the kids, they're so close knit, and it's one of those things where if Shantae ain't going, I ain't going, right? Because you feel discomfortable a lot, and it is when you walk into you feel uncomfortable when you walk into a room and you don't know anybody. That can be very uncomfortable, but it can be very liberating too, as I myself found out a few years ago. um, I just started learning how to travel by myself because that's where God had me at that time, which is how I began to level up. And I want to say now it is one of the best things that I could have ever done for myself, right? So you want to get out of that fear of having to always have somebody around. Get used to just going and doing things on your own. So that is all I have today for part two of obstacles that stop us from making change. Now, I will be back. The hope is that I will be back tomorrow. I was supposed to be back with part two of this yesterday, but some stuff happened with my son, and I had to go handle that real quick. So, y'all, charge it to my head, not my heart. I do apologize about that. But my hope is to get back on probably during the day. If not, tomorrow is Friday, so we can have a chill out night, and I'm going to come back with a different obstacle that causes us what do you call it? Not to level up to our gifting. But I do have to get off of here now so I can go get him. Um, I did want to let you guys know that I do have this course coming up here soon. It's a email boot camp, and it's called Finding a Starting Point. And I would love for you guys to get into it once it's released. It should be released here within the next few days. I just got to critique some things on it, but just to let you know, those are some of the things that are going to be coming through. Um, and if you guys enjoyed, y'all, my nose is starting to clog up because I got this fan on. But if you guys enjoyed this part two, definitely share it with somebody that you believe needs to hear this information. Hit like and subscribe to the channel, please. I would love to have you. Again, if you are in there and you're trying to chat with me, charge it to my head and not my heart. I'm still trying to learn this system. It shows a chat room, but nobody's in the chat room. I don't know if I have to do anything to see people in the chat room. So I'm gonna figure that out. I will figure that out. But I do appreciate you for stepping in and spending time with me. I pray that you've learned something. And again, please, please, if you know somebody who needs this information, share it with them. I am really trying to reach a goal of 500, at least 500 plus followers. So I would love for you to definitely subscribe. I'm also trying to reach another goal. If I hit at least 100, well, if I hit, let me see, if I hit at least anywhere between, let's just say 150, I have a gift, right? That one of my coaches sent me, and she sent it to me a while ago. And I was going to tear it open, but I said, you know what? I'm going to legitimately work on this next year, bringing people in online, because I got customers right out, but I'm trying to expand my business. And part of that is me putting myself in a challenge, which makes this whole talk or whole series about things that stop us from making change. It just makes it bittersweet because I see myself in some of this stuff that I talk about. So I'm leveling up. I'm leveling up with y'all. If you find that this message speaks to you, definitely stay tuned because I have more stuff coming. But I do want to get at least 100 or so subscribers so I can do a reveal party. I know what's in the present. I just have not opened it because I'm challenging myself to get to this level. I have this number in my head, and if I can get to it, then I will definitely open the package, and I'll open it with you guys on camera. But other than that, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope y'all appreciate it, or not appreciate it. I hope y'all enjoyed it. And I appreciate you all for stepping in the room and checking out to see what I'm here talking about. I got to get going because I got to go get my little guy, even though he's not my little guy anymore. He's a senior in high school, but I got to go run and pick him up. But always remember, I am right here in the stands cheering y'all on. God is at the finish line waiting to love and congratulate you. I love y'all with the love of Christ. I will talk to you soon, and God bless.